You are. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Pelham Board of Education of May 5th, 2021 to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this brings us to item 2.4, which is reiteration of the executive session motions.
Yes, the board met in executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual and purchase of or lease of property.
Thank
Sorry, I was
you.
doing that from memory. I'm not sure if that's exactly right.
Welcome to tonight's meeting. Over the past few days, we've had an opportunity to honor and acknowledge some of the most important educators in our district. This past Saturday was National School Principals Day. I've always been impressed by our principals, but never more so than this year. Never could we have envisioned the need to reimagine our schools, practices, and the ways we interact with one another as we have had to do over this past school year. This year, our principals have had to continually pivot, go back to the drawing board, and even at times, move mountains. Through each new twist and turn, they've demonstrated their dedication to our students. On behalf of the board, I want to say thank you to our principals for supporting our teachers each and every day and for helping to nurture our students' educational and social emotional needs by creating school environments they have felt comfortable and excited to walk into each day. As I'm sure many of you who are watching already know, National Teacher Appreciation Week is this week and it began on Monday. Again, I also want to thank all of our teachers for the energy, passion, and patience they bring to their classrooms each day. During this unsteady time, it was all of our teachers who created a bedrock foundation for our students. Our students came to school feeling excited, supported, and safe because of our teachers. They demonstrated flexibility when conditions and expectations were ever-changing, all while tending to the varied needs, strengths, circumstances, and interests of their students. While this is the annual time that we demonstrate gratitude for our teachers, I want everybody to know that we appreciate and support our teachers all year long. Next week, on May 12th, is School Nurses Appreciation Day. I think it's that time of year where everybody needs a good pat on the back, so we've got them all lined up at once. I can't stress how incredibly grateful we are for our nurses, whose role has changed dramatically over the past year. From temperature checks to performing surveillance testing, these individuals have truly been on the front lines and allowed us to remain open this school year. Our school nurses are true unsung heroes, and we are so thankful for their calming presence and their medical expertise. Tonight, we will hold a public hearing on the proposed 2021-2022 budget. So anyone who wishes to make public comment on the budget may do so during the public hearing portion of our meeting. We will then have a second public comment period at the end of tonight's meeting for matters which are separate from the budget. As a reminder, the annual budget vote and school board member election will be next Wednesday, May 18th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Pelham Middle School gym right here, which is a change of pace from our last several elections, so please remember to report here and not to the blue gym in the high school. You can also submit an application for an absentee ballot to the district clerk. The applications, along with additional information about the budget and voter registration, are available on the district website by clicking the 2021-2022 budget under this Board of Education tab. So now I will move on to section 3, which is approval of the minutes. 3.1 is the minutes from the regular meeting of April 21st, 2021. Do I have a motion? Thanks, Benny, and a second, John. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 4 is administrative and committee reports. 4.1 is the superintendent's report. Dr. Chan.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. And I could not say as eloquently everything that you said. And thanks for our teachers, our nurses, our principals, and our staff. But I also just want to express my sincere appreciation for them for all they do, especially in this last year. It has been like nothing any of us ever prepared for, planned for, or have experienced. ever before and hopefully never again. We could not have gotten through it without the dedication of those individuals. So thanks so much to our teachers, to our administrators, our principals, our nurses, I'd say our administrative professionals, our custodians as well. There's not enough thanks to go around this year for the incredible work that has been accomplished, all in service of our students and our community. So thank you to them, and you deserve every bit of honor that comes your way in these days. Next item I wanted to share on the agenda tonight in the personnel section, you will see that we are we'll be hiring a new guidance counselor for the high school. So I just wanted to point that out, as I know that Mrs. Archer, who has been at the high school for many years and is very beloved in that role, is transferring to the middle school. And so the candidate who's being appointed tonight on the agenda will be the replacement for her. So the high school will be reaching out in the very near future, sharing information to Mrs. Archer's caseload of students about the transition that's coming up, so they have the opportunity to meet the new counselor and prepare for next year, because we know how important especially junior and senior years are, and we want to make sure that we have a smooth transition and establish those great relationships right up front. And we're very excited about the candidate who's coming in and look forward to great things there. So the parents and students of Mrs. Archer's can look forward to getting information within these next couple weeks. Next, I have emailed the board just a few minutes ago the final task force report. Kristen Burke had offered to be here tonight, but I felt confident I could share that with you on her behalf and on behalf of the task force. Kristen stepped in and helped as a co-facilitator through these last couple of months, and I should say the task force is continuing their work. So the final report that was sent to you tonight, Pauline, I'll be sure you get that too for the. I'll be sure you get that report for the record. Is the reopening, full-time in-person reopening final report. What was added from the last time when Kristen was here and other members of the committee is now that we've brought high school students back. So the cohort plan for the high school, the senior return to the high school. And I do know that high school administrators are continuing to look at space in the hopes of adding even more to that. So that information should be coming out within the next week or so. But we wanted to have this report complete to the board for this phase of work. The task force did meet this past week to start to look at the fall. We'll be dividing into 4 new subgroups, but kind of similar themes to what was worked on through the last few months. The big issues that we really need to solve for the fall, space continues to be an issue. Having the students back is giving us a very clear picture about what we can fit and can't fit. So at the elementary level, we feel pretty confident. We need to look more at how lunch will work. It all depends on if the regulations under which we have to work get changed over the summer or not. If they're updated in light of vaccines, in light of the status of the spread of COVID, or they stay the same, that will be night and day difference. So we're planning for the worst, hoping for the best. So looking at how are we going to do lunch in the fall at the elementary if nothing changes. Classroom space generally is good. At the secondary level, there still will be still some issues at the high school for classroom space. And although we're getting by with the lunch plan at the secondary campus on rainy days such as today, it works, but it's not great. So it's not a solid long-term plan. So those are the big issues that the secondary will be looking at, as well as congestion in the hallways. The other big area that the committees will be looking at is fully virtual teaching. Excuse me. We do not know at this point if we'll be required to offer a full virtual option for students. I know most districts, and myself as well, know that we are a people business. Schools were intended for students to be together in community, in learning communities, in our buildings, in person with teachers. That is how we want to be educating our children. So our hope is that next year that is the plan and things go back to normal, the new normal. But if we are required to provide a fully virtual option, we want to have had those conversations and thought that through ahead of time. So we'll have a group looking at how that would look at the elementary and how it would look at the secondary. As we said, we've already learned a lot from this year's full virtual experience at the elementary, and we know that we would take a different approach next year if we had to do it, and we would hire fully dedicated teachers for that if need be. Secondary is a little bit more complicated because of the course work that students undertake. So that's what the subcommittees will be working on. We've got 3 more meetings before the end of the school year. So our plan is to have those tentative plans in place by the time we leave for the summer. So that's just an update on the task force.
Can I ask a quick question on
Sure.
that topic? I know we've received a few emails about the barriers.
Yes.
The CDC doesn't
Great
emphasize the
question.
need for
Yes.
that. And I attended an online webinar where that was pretty much confirmed that all of the air circulation that we have in place and the open windows is way more effective. So can you just speak to that and sort of what that process looks like?
That was a big piece of our discussion at the task force last night. So yes, the science and the guidelines are indicating that the barriers are no longer required, certainly, and not necessarily recommended. It doesn't mean that they're not recommended, it just means they're not recommended. So we did keep them for the time being based on that was the plan that the task force had put in place. Those are kind of the rules of engagement that teachers were expecting, and even parents who were nervous about sending their children back. Many of them were comfortable because they knew there were multiple levels of mitigation strategy. So we've kept them for that reason. It was a piece of safety while we brought everyone in, assessed how it went, continue with our surveillance testing, which I'm sure Julie is going to mention, our continued pleas for folks to continue to participate. At the moment, it needs more conversation, is really how we left it. There was definitely differing perspectives on the barriers. We did an initial survey, and we still have about 20% of staff that strongly feel that they need to continue with them in place. And some of that is an added layer of reminder of keeping separate and keeping space from one another. Some of that is because students are, in some cases, facing one another at tables or in desk clusters. So we've asked a lot of our teachers, a whole lot of our teachers throughout the year. There's been a number of adjustments and changes. So before we make any more changes, we just really want to be more thoughtful about understanding where people are on just an emotional level, and make sure that folks are ready for any change, and that it's a smart change that everyone can be comfortable with. So we have some more internal conversations to do around that before we move away from the barriers. Okay. So for the time being, I know it's an inconvenience, but we are asking students to continue to bring those. But we will be hoping to have some of those conversations brought to make a final decision on that within the next 2 weeks as to whether we're going to keep them for the remainder of the year or move in a different direction. So,
thanks.
And I appreciate the inconvenience that they are in a
They're getting cloudier by the day.
I know, and there's lots of ideas of what they will be used for in the future. We've heard lots of those too. One item I did want to put out there. I know many folks saw the email that we put out the other day about a safety threat that was received at the high school, and I know folks are frustrated at the limited information that is put out, and I do apologize for that, but we are very limited in what we can say. But what we can say is our security staff did exactly what they should do, and they secured, they secured the properties. The Village of Pelham PD was right on the spot, absolutely responsive, and did everything they needed to do to assure that there was no imminent threat to the schools. And I know it's frustrating for us to not be able to give you those details, but please know that everyone did what they were supposed to do. They determined that there was no longer a threat, and we will continue to do everything that we normally do within the normal code of conduct and providing multiple approaches to supporting students in need. And that's unfortunately as much as I can say about that. I had a number of parents reach out to me about that. I will be returning those emails, but there are definitely some student privacy issues that we have to be attentive to at times like this. But please rest assured that our local police worked hand in hand with us, and we're in a good place. A couple more things to share, and I apologize for the length of some of this, but we have not had enough chance to talk about the great successes of our students this year. So I just want to share a few items with you. First is about National History Day this year for 2021. This winter, some 11th grade students participated in the annual National History Day competition, in which students tackled this year's theme, Communication in History, the Key to Understanding. In the National History Day competition, students conduct and share research projects in a variety of mediums, including individual or group documentaries, historical papers, exhibits, websites, and more. The students compete at a regional competition with the possibility of moving on to state and national competitions throughout the spring. 4 students have qualified for the state competition. High school sophomore Julia Meyerson and juniors Jack Anderson and Mark Tarazi and Stephen Liascos. And let me list the names of their project. Yes. Let me restate that last piece. Below is a couple of, below is the specific projects. So Julia Meyerson's project was in the senior individual documentary category, Navajo Code Talkers, the Impact of Unbreakable Communication. And in senior group websites, that was Jack Anderson, Mark Tarazi, and Stephen Liascos. Their project was television's role in the civil rights movement, shedding light on unseen problems and causing social change. Also, Pelham Middle School STEAM Club participated in a virtual competition on Saturday, April 24th against other middle school students from Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties. 2 of the members of the club won 3rd place awards in their categories. Thomas Tavaraska in the category of Earth and Science for his project entitled A Comparison of Phytoplankton in Connection to Biofertilizer for Space Exploration. Annika Roy in the category of Health and Medicine for her project entitled Matter of the Heart, Association of BMI with Heart Rate and Blood Pressure. Annika also earned the honor of top 10% of all exhibits and was selected as an alternate to compete in the Broadcom Masters competition. Congratulations to all of them for their hard work and dedication. And finally, another in our STEM science world in particular, the PMHS Science Research Program has had a record-setting show at this year's Westchester Science and Engineering Fair, also known as WESF. I may have mentioned some of this before. This is a little bit more of a thorough reporting on this tonight, with several students earning top honors in their respective categories and 4 advancing to this year's Regeneron International Science Engineering Fair, also known as ISEF, the most prestigious high school competition in the world. Held virtually on March 23rd, WISEF offers a chance for high school students across the county to showcase their research in a variety of fields. The top 20 projects advance to ISEF, where the students compete against the best research students from all over the world. This year, PMHS had an incredible success and was the winningest school in the competition with 4 students, Brett Bober, Jack Doherty, Daniel Dusevec, and Lucia Lavelli, advancing to ISEF for their projects in the environmental science field. Doherty and Dusevec earned Best Team in the Fair, honors for their project, a profile in heavy metal contamination in lower Hudson Valley tributaries. Bober also earned first place in the environmental science for her project, determining effective locations of seagrass to prevent coastal erosion. While Lavelli placed second for her project, Street Trees, an analysis of undergrounding power lines in the northeast suburbs. In addition to these students, and before I go on to that, I would also mention to the board, if you're interested, in the past, we have invited students who have achieved at that level to actually come be honored at the board meeting. So I'd love to be able to do that now that things are opening up a little bit more. So we hope to invite them to a future meeting. In addition to these honors, the students who competed at ISEF, juniors Anna Liu in computational biology, bioinformatics, and Caroline Garufi in neuroscience were selected as finalists for the Genius Olympiad, an international competition for top-performing juniors. Additional results from YSEF finalists include, we already had Brett, Jack, Daniel, and Lucia. Grand prize for the International Genius Olympiad was Ann Liu and Caroline Garufi. These are the additional listings. First place category awards went to Brett Bober in environmental science. Second place category to Ann Liu, computational biology, bioinformatics. Olivia Pollack, environmental science. Caroline Garufi, neuroscience. James Fendikian, physics and astronomy. Nia Hesseli in medicine and health. Jack Doherty and Daniel, again, in environmental science. Lucia Lavelli in environmental science. Matthew McCormick, biochemistry. Third place award went to Andrew Kelly in chemistry. Fourth place awards went to Jack Tersch in behavioral and social sciences, Stella Schulbaum, cellular and molecular biology, Graham Yuen, cellular and molecular biology, Isaac Blackburn, computational biology and bioinformatics, Madeline Burer, environmental science, and Emily Calves in mathematics. But there's more. Special awards went to Andrew Kelly, Catherine Valente. An ASM Materials Education Foundation Award was awarded to recognize outstanding projects in materials and engineering. Stella Schlimbaum won the Society for In Vitro Biology Award. It goes to 11th grade students in recognition of their outstanding research in the areas of tissue and cell culture of plants or animals. Dylan Hofflish won the U.S. Agency for International Development Award, projects that have the potential to make an impact on addressing international developmental challenges. Olivia Pollack, Jack Doherty, Daniel Dusevec, Brett Bober, and Evan Shefchick won the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. New York State semifinalists qualifying to compete for a chance to be finalists in Stockholm for their outstanding water science projects. Charlotte Nanda won the Critical Behavior Science Achievement Award. This award is donated by Critica, a community committed to making rational decisions about health and security, and is given to outstanding projects in the behavioral science category. Elise McCarthy, Samantha Min, Margot Phillips, Georgia Rossello won the Excellence in Medical Research Award, donated by Westchester Academy of Medicine, and will be awarded to projects that improve our quality of life and make people healthier. Nia Hasseley won the Future of Medicine Award, sponsored by the Westchester Academy of Medicine, and is given to projects for their outstanding medical research. Paige Fellner and Luke Mackel won the Momentive Inventing Possibilities Award. This award was donated by Momentive and is given to outstanding projects in the category of chemistry, biochemistry, and engineering. Catherine Grant Roll won, I'm sorry, that one got cut off. The award that she won is sponsored by Teatown Lake Reservation, is given to projects that aim to protect natural habitats and their ecosystems. And finally, Ben Levine won, his award was for students whose projects demonstrate excellence in scientific curiosity. So an outstanding year for our students in science research. Despite all their challenges, they have thrived. And it's going to be super exciting to see them enjoy their new classroom next year as part of the bond project. So all this working out of a very small location, but with outstanding faculty leading the way. So congratulations to our students, and thank you for enduring a little bit longer report tonight, but well worth it, I hope. That's
Alex,
it for me tonight.
some of those awards, or most of those awards, are in the focus that's coming out, correct? So
Oh, that's a great
in
reminder.
case you missed any of those.
Yes, the Budget Focus newsletter will be hitting mailboxes this soon. It is at the printers as we speak.
Just in time.
Yes, so you can watch for that, and they're probably going out within the next week. Thank you very much.
Nice to see those awards in print, especially for those students and families. Okay, so next is 4.2, Board of Education Committee reports. We had bond steering and audit.
Yep.
Okay. Any others that I missed? Okay. Take your pick. Audits first in the alphabet if you want.
I'm used to going last.
By a letter.
Mine alphabetical?
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Take it away,
On
Benny.
Tuesday, April 27th, the Audit Committee met, and the primary objective, in my opinion, of that meeting was we needed to discuss and meet with Cullen and Danowski, who are internal auditors, and discuss the district's corrective action plan relating to the risk assessments that they determined. And the risk assessments that they determined were for a period of time. What happens is every year they come, they do their risk assessment, and sometimes they're addressed, but sometimes due to the complexities, it takes a little longer than just a couple of months to fix. So we went through a variety of risk assessments, and we looked at all the corrective action plans that Jim's group had put together, and at the end of it all, we believed, it was the opinion of the Audit Committee, that the corrective action plan, which coincidentally we will be voting on this evening, properly addresses all of these risk assessments that were brought by the internal auditors. In addition to that, we discussed the timing of our external audit, because every year they have to come in. we determined, and is typical every year, they usually come in that late June. They do a little testing in June,
Yes.
and then wind up doing the majority of their testing in July. Is that right, Jim?
That's correct.
And based upon that, everybody was fine. They're actually going to be coming in. It's not going to be a virtual audit. They'll be coming in and doing all of their testing, which I appreciated and I thought was very important under the circumstances. And finally, if you guys remember, way back when, maybe a few months ago, we received a questionnaire from our friends at the State Controller's Office regarding an audit that they're doing. Every 5 or 6 years, we get tapped on the shoulder, and we were lucky enough to do that this time through, to have an audit done. They obviously have all of our answers to the questionnaire. Apparently, they're coming back to us in the not-too-distant future with the results of that audit, and we'll address it at that point in time. But right now, I don't think we have any indication of anything that they have found at this point, Jim. Is that correct?
Well, their focus was going to be on information and technology, so they looked at a number of different areas from their initial risk assessment, and then based on that, they did a deeper dive in information and technology. So John Sabalos has been working with them, and we've been working with them on providing all information and providing any clarifications on any information that they're looking for as well.
Got it. And that's all I got.
Can I just ask one quick question? I was going to ask it later, but I noticed in the corrective action plan, because of COVID, certain things got pushed back. You said take longer to accomplish. So some of them now have deadlines of like June or December or next June. So just as a refresher, do you give us updates in your weekly reports as things get tended to, or will we get an update at one moment in time when those recommendations are met?
Question. As Vinny mentioned, this is the internal auditor. They come in every year, and every year what they do is they look at our corrective action plan, and they question, they interview folks throughout the district to see how we're doing on our corrective action plan, to see if we've made progress with it. And that's the determination of that we're staying on track. And you're exactly right. Some of the things that we had in our corrective action plan previously, you actually needed people in the buildings to complete. Some of it was related to our time and attendance recording using an electronic system, and we also now have a turnover in our payroll department coming up. So that's why we gave ourselves a little bit more time there. But every year the internal auditor comes back. They review that corrective action plan. They interview folks throughout the district, so it's not just the people in the business department. They'll interview the superintendent, they'll interview the facilities department, administrators, to see how we're doing on all of these areas and individuals and those functions, to see where we are on it. Also to mention, with the risk assessment plan, next year's risk assessment will focus also on our special education area, because that was an area that was last looked at 7 or 8 years ago. So I believe that's one of those other areas that they felt at this point in time that we've touched benefits, we've done payroll, we've done purchasing, and this is one of those, again, it's one of those things that you should look at on a regular basis.
And these reports actually get sent up to the state.
The state, right?
And in a very timely manner. And in addition to that, the results from these reports also get submitted to our external auditors for review as well. So it's part of their review.
Right. So those recommendations that will be met by June and December would be included like a year from now as we get this update. It'll be shown as achieved, hopefully, perhaps.
Or
And
if it's
then
not
I noticed
addressed,
some
it'll
got
still
pushed
be
to-
there.
Right, as addressed. Okay.
That's right. We also are required to post it on the district website. So if you go to the business office's website, you'll see years and years of risk assessments and agreed upon procedures and corrective action plans. And this is, again, it's part of the improvements that happened after what happened out in Long Island years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
So it's true, we have 3 auditors normally in a given year, and this year we have a 4th, which is the state, correct?
Well, it's true. We have our claims auditor every month. We have an external auditor, our internal auditor, and now we have the state comptroller. It's perfect year.
Lucky us.
And John Sabalos in particular, certainly information and technology has been, he's been working outrageously all year long, and I think everybody knows that. So, and
So if I find a quarter on the floor outside, I should make sure I give it to you, right?
With a witness. We want to make sure we document everything.
Very good. Jess, bond steering?
Sure. Right, so we had bond steering as well. We had it yesterday morning. It was a great meeting. We covered, first thing was we covered a bunch of updates just on all the projects that are happening. Just as a refresher, we have Hutchinson School, we have the middle school interior renovations, we have the Prospect Hill addition, Prospect Hill Field, the Glover Complex, and we also got an update on 314, even though that wasn't part of the bond. But, of all that work that's happening, Glover we can now say is done. It's there, everything's ready for use and in use, and it looks great. So that's really exciting to have that portion of the bond work done. I think we could also say that phase 1 of the masonry here at the middle school, high school is done, because we also talked about phase 2, which was a key piece of the meeting. We had bids received for the phase 2 work, which includes some work at the middle school that had been put on hold from the beginning. We've bid that work 3 times now. This is our 4th time bidding it. We weren't getting what we wanted the first couple times, and it wasn't as critical as some of the other work that we needed to do on the middle school, high school exterior masonry. So now we have a number for that, and we also received a bid for the front, Russ calls it the Oriole window? Oriole window, which is at the front of the entrance of the high school, which is in poor shape and effectively needs to be removed and replaced. So both of the numbers for that work came in very favorable, and we reviewed the bids. We have 2 qualified bidders that were vetted, and we're putting forward those bids to the board tonight. The bond steering committee approved that work and wants to recommend that we go forward with that work. And we also reviewed the overall budget of the bond, just to see where we are. We're coming up on the final awards here, and we are on budget. We are doing well. It's great to see that we've been able to get all these pieces in place and checked our way all the way along, and it's looking really good that we're getting everything we promised in the bond and more. So particularly like with the work at Prospect Hill, where we're able to get that extra classroom and conference room fitted out, which was not even imagined the first time around. And the work that we did through COVID and rebidding there really helped us. So it's pretty exciting. I think that was pretty much everything. And Jim will repeat what I said too.
Pretty much.
Give you first look at it.
Jess, I have a question.
Yeah.
With the window that you're talking about, does the contractor need to do something special to make sure that it fits with the historic nature of the building?
Yes, they're actually going to remove all the pieces of stone, it's cast stone that's there. So all of the ornamentation, they're going to remove those pieces, create molds of it, and then recast stone to put back. So it will be a restoration of what's there, or a replication of what's there.
And it's not just the Oriole window, it's the whole bay window
Yeah.
over the entrance in the front. It's that whole 2-story
It's like
piece.
3 stories and,
Yeah. So it's going to be a massive undertaking.
yeah. So there will be a scaffolding up, and there will be, it will be an exit. It will not be an entrance. There will have to be alternate entrances, but it will be there as an emergency exit. But it will be out of commission, that entrance, for the summer and a little bit into the fall.
And this was the work that was identified when we did the original masonry work in the first phase that this
Yeah,
needed to
as we
happen.
were looking at the building in the first phase, this window, there are chunks of that stone that have become loose and could fall.
You don't want stone falling off a building, but certainly not by the main entrance of the high school.
No. So, but it's been reviewed. The structure is safe, like the structure is sound, but it is a full replacement that needs to happen there.
What's it, the 100th anniversary of
Yeah, that's what
the
we're,
high school?
yeah.
So I guess after 100 years, needs a facelift, right?
Right. But it's going to
Not
be
bad.
hopefully repaired in time for the 100-year celebration.
And plans are underway for that? will plans be underway soon for the 100th
Oh,
day?
they've been underway.
Mark's
Okay,
working
good.
on it already, yeah.
That's exciting. I haven't heard anything about that. Okay.
I
Something-
would just like to comment that, when we started out on all these bond projects, we felt the budgets were very tight, and that's part of the reason some of this work was put off, because it felt like there was other stuff that was more important. And maybe we got lucky in this current environment, but as we've been rebidding this stuff, we've been able to get a lot more for bang for our buck than we originally thought we would be able to. So I think people should have some comfort in that, this has been managed very well, and we're going to get a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
what the voters approved.
It's really exciting to see things finishing up, and it's going to be there. Glover's there. It's great.
I have a new school in the fall.
I know.
I mean, personally, when I think about what was off the table at Prospect, what was floated out there as a possibility, then
Yeah.
possibly taken away and put on hold, and then the fact that we're accomplishing a much more beautiful
Yeah, it's really great.
exterior at Prospect makes me feel better about the work. I know we could get an elevator and some of the other things that in the bathrooms, but just to have that is huge, to have it look so beautiful on the outside.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Any other committee reports? Okay. So next is, are you going to do Steve's report?
Actually, no, we don't have anything to add in
Okay,
that
perfect.
category for tonight.
So no authentic learning. So 4.4 is Assistant Superintendent's update on the whole child. Ms. Chung.
You. Good evening, everyone. I would like to start off tonight with a report from the Counseling Office. The Counseling Department and the Pelham Civics will be hosting a virtual career panel on the topic of careers in rehabilitation services, such as psychology, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, which really are all very rewarding professions. So I hope many students will take advantage of that. It will take place on May 12th at 1 p.m. The counseling department also distributed the senior surveys for post-secondary college outcomes. So we should have an update as to the future plans of our seniors in the near future. In the areas of social emotional wellness, in case parents were not able to attend the elementary, middle, and the high school FTIP parent workshop, the recordings are available on the district's website. And let's see, tomorrow the Wellness Committee will be meeting to review the results of the High Achieving School Survey. The committee will make recommendations as to how and when to share the information and next steps. And that will also be shared with the FTIP task force as well. Today, we had an assembly in the high school this morning for our 10th and 11th grade students on mental health awareness. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think it is really important, especially as we are kind of finishing out the year and our students, some of our students will be going off to college. Some students, will be in different programs for the summer, but we definitely wanted to make sure that we talk about mental health and the importance of our students, really recognizing that and understanding that, it's okay to talk about that because that is something that is very common. And the assembly was great. It was for 10th and 12th today. Next Wednesday, we'll have our 9th and 12th graders participate in the assembly. We also had all of our counselors and psychologists attend the workshop today with our students. And so they made sure to make themselves known so that if any of the students, if any of the content was difficult for them, we wanted to make sure that they knew who to reach out to. So they participated in both assemblies today. Also tonight in section 6, you'll see a whole bunch of agencies that we are recommending. We completed the RFP process for consultants for PPS services such as speech, OT, PT, evaluations, psychological and psychiatric evaluation, consultation, nursing services, home instruction, translation services. We did that because actually after, I guess about a month ago, the task force had made a suggestion that perhaps we need to support our psychologists in all of our buildings because as students are transitioning back to school, we felt that there will be a lot more counseling perhaps that might be needed. And so we needed to go out for an RFP, and Mr. Ricky has suggested that we do one for the entire PPS services, which is what we do need to do, I think he said every 4 years about. So we did that for all services instead of just psychological services. So that's why you see them listed today. And lastly, I cannot let a board meeting go by without saying something about COVID. And so I do want to say that in terms of our surveillance testing, it was going pretty well. And I think now we do, I just want to remind our elementary parents that our numbers are going down a little bit. We need their continued participation. So if they haven't signed up their kids yet, please make sure to sign them up. I know our PTAs are also helping us out by sending out messages on their listserv as well. But please remember to sign the kids up. The middle and high school kids, we're signing up, so we're good. But elementary, we do need the parents to sign up. Thank you.
Ms. Chung, I had a question. So, can you hear me? The consultants that you just spoke about that we're approving tonight, those are sort of people who are on standby in the case that our staff needs support next year.
Yes, actually, all of the services, sometimes we do need some additional services because we don't have enough staffing to provide the services. Sometimes we may have students that require speech services, possibly like CPSE services. Like this year, we are trying to get some psychologists to come in and help us with some evaluations to free up our psychologist time. So there are many different things. There's also translation services. So there are times where we need bilingual evaluations. And so that's also part of what a couple of these agencies are able to provide. So it is for the additional services that our staff are not always able to provide.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, the next is 4.5, Assistant Superintendent's Update on Finance and Facilities.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. Vinny took care of our audit committee, so that's we had a very good meeting in April to talk about our. We'll have a meeting in August too, to talk about our agreed upon the risk assessment and our corrective action plan, and certainly that's on the board agenda for this evening, and we spoke about that. Julia mentioned our RFPs. This is something we do on a fairly regular basis, depending on any list of different services, professional services that the PPS group may need throughout the years. Sometimes they're very specialized, and this is a great opportunity for us to go ahead and do that. And that's why I have those recommendations for awarding them this evening. Our capital construction is moving along nicely. Just a couple of items I can touch on that aren't happening yet, but will be happening in the near future. Certainly the demolition of the existing Hutchinson building will probably begin in the July timeframe. It won't look like a lot is happening to people driving by, but between the July and December timeframe is when we're working with the demolition contractor for when we can expect to see that happen. Triton Construction Management is, along with the contractor, we're making sure that we make the necessary communications to people. There could be some lane closures on Lincoln Avenue at that time. And again, there's going to be a coordination of efforts to make sure everyone is involved before those decisions are made and when that happens. So again, you kind of do that soft abatement at the beginning, the interior demolition, and then the exterior, which is really what everybody will see. The interior renovation work at the high school, which was postponed from last year, started officially this week on May 1st. So they'll start seeing more effort there to renovate some of our administrative offices back into instructional spaces. So the first spaces will be the areas created for the new art rooms on the ground floor. And that's really exciting. So that creates that pressing need for us to create new office rental spaces for our administrative offices, obviously, and we're working diligently on that. And then this evening, as was mentioned by Jess, we have the recommended award of the 2 bids. Also, we have the recommended acceptance of the withdrawal of 2 bids. We had really great numbers, but once the bidders realized what they left out, we would never get the job done, obviously, that we had specified. They made errors in formulating their bid, and they submitted us withdrawal letters to the architect and construction manager almost immediately requesting that their bids be withdrawn, and that's our recommendation. So in addition to the awards tonight, we're asking that you accept those withdrawals. You just very quickly too, we have 2 retirements coming up on this evening's board packet. They certainly fall under my general responsibility area, so I figure I get a chance to. I get the mic, I'll mention it. One of them is Miriam Lovett, who's she's our transportation coordinator, and she's also an accounts payable person. She's been with the district for 25 years. She's given us her 6-month notice. She brings nothing but energy to our department, and we'll sorely miss her. We'll wish her well, and we're going to have an opportunity, of course, to do that as we do with all our retirees every year. And then Maurizio Santini, who's one of our custodians. He's been with the district now for 27 years as well, and he's reached that time in his life when it's time for a new transition, and certainly we wish him well too. Both of these folks give us their 6-month letter of intent to retire. It's an irrevocable letter of intent to retire. So we're asking the board to receive both of those this evening. And then last but not least, we learned recently that the governor extended, and actually this is Miriam Lovett who just texted me, the governor did extend the deadline for out-of-district transportation to May 21st. So we're going to put that back up on the webpage, make sure people are aware of it. Miriam did have some people who reached out to her who missed the deadline. We've made contact with them so that they have the opportunity to submit the forms. So again, this is something that happened after the fact. We just learned of it this week, May 21st. And then we have our public hearing this evening. We've got the big deck has now been reduced to about 10 slides, maybe 14, Alex? So when we get to the public hearing portion of it, if you'd like me to, we could certainly do a quick review of the district budget as well.
How does that change in the deadline affect our budgeting? Because I know our deadline of April,
That's right.
I forget the date, is always ahead of us finalizing our budget.
It is. So if there are a number of people that request the transportation, we do have 2 contingent positions that we hold. Certainly if there's more than that at that point in time, we'd have to make accommodations elsewhere because they're still within the guidelines.
Right. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, so this brings us to section 5, which is the state mandated budget hearing. Can I have a motion to recess our regular meeting and convene the budget hearing?
So moved.
Thanks, Leah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sue. I think I heard you. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So you'll do the review first? And
I'll do
then-
that quickly if that's okay. So good evening. This evening, the proposed budget for the 2022 school year is $80,280,000. It is a budget-to-budget increase of 4.67%, with a projected allowable tax levy increase of 2.47%, and that's fully tax compliant, within the tax cap compliant rules. Here are the components that make up the tax cap. As we've talked about it before, we've got if you think about it like your operating budget, which is what we use for the lights to pay our teachers, your general operating issues of running a school, that makes up 1.7% of this tax increase. And the remainder of that is 0.77% is what makes up our capital budget. And of important notice in here, as you look at this, you can see that with the enhanced use of the debt service fund, we're able to keep that tax rate almost 1.99% lower than this current percentage point. When the budget was originally proposed, it was 3.31%, and certainly I know the board had a good discussion at the last meeting before the budget was set and when the budget was set to bring it down to 2.47%, utilizing our debt service fund reserves. So here are the budget highlights. Again, we're expanding our summer programming. We know that this is important coming off of this pandemic year. We are continuing our professional learning so that we can help all of our students, and certainly talking a little bit about bringing on those additional providers that Julia and I mentioned with the RFPs that we put out. We've had the restoration of the world languages positioned to increase to meet those increasing demands and to restore a prior position, as well as high school science. We've got additional learning resources for software. With the pandemic, we certainly brought in a lot more programs, and we're finding that they're being used, and that's why they're in the budget. The continued mobile learning, this supports one-to-one devices, and for grades 3 through 12. More flexible furnishings throughout the district, and again, maintaining our class sizes at or below the Board of Education guidelines. These are new to the board's packet, but certainly these are some updates of what's been happening with the work that we're doing and the debt service that we have, the increase that we have in our debt service that helps support the new Hutchinson School. This is as you look at it from the front, and right to the right-hand side is the gymnasium, and then as you can see, that's just the front door right there in the center. The bus loop curbing went in this week, so again, we're moving along nicely. As you look at the left-hand side picture, that is the gymnasium. The gymnasium is the same regulation size as the gymnasium we're currently in right now. This week we also, it was last week, we had an opportunity to walk through the gymnasium with representatives from Town Recreation. So again, provide an opportunity for them to look at the site as well, because we know they run a number of town programs and services, and certainly it's a huge space. It's really great. We're going to also have some seating there, not as much seating as we have here, but there will be spectator seating available. On the right-hand side, what you're looking at is the cafeteria, and in that cafeteria, we also have a small auditorium stage area, and if that backs to the music instruction area as well. There's going to be curtains. There's a small step up for the stage, and then the area up in front of that stage is our cafeteria, which will be great because we don't really have cafeteria seating in any of our elementary schools, and this creates a designated and specific area for our students. I think just the drones do a great job in capturing this picture at Glover. As you can see, that's the main varsity football field. If you look closely, you can certainly see all the lines, and that's great because that also talks about all the different levels of play and use that field can get. I think we've got 5 different sports. Special thanks to John Condon for making sure we get that P in the middle of the field too. He made sure our provider made sure that we could get that in there, and again, it just gives a really great touch to how it looks. I don't live in town, but certainly when I drive by frequently, and I think there's barely a time when you don't see people on the fields using it, and that's great. It's a tremendous community resource. What helped us make this budget? We had areas of savings. Certainly we're going to miss them. We have 2 teachers and a counselor retiring, as well as 2 teaching assistants and an administrative assistant. We did have favorable collective bargaining agreements that took place once the pandemic started last year. Our collective bargaining unions were certainly partners in that process, and that helps us close that gap for this year. We have some reduced tuition costs at BOCES due to shifting student needs. So while we may have some outside tuition increasing in other areas, the BOCES tuition costs are decreasing based on that. We've also seen savings based on our sustainability, building control systems, ever-expanding use of LED lighting. And last year, about this time, I think we were talking about what we thought may have been happening in the greater economy in this area and what our thoughts might happen in sales tax. And with that, we took a conservative approach last year. Fortunately enough, the revenues came in stronger, and what we've done this year is we've matched next year's projected revenues to this year's. So we've kind of trued that up. Areas where we have increased costs, certainly debt service related to the 2018 capital project. Healthcare rate increases, as I've shared with the superintendent, when you can get a healthcare increase below 5%, as crazy as it sounds, you feel like you're doing okay. And I think we were in the 4% range, and for our retirees, we were closer to 0. but you have that blended rate. Our retirement system is a number that is a system that's managed by the state comptroller and by the Teachers Retirement System Board, and they provide that rate increase to the district, and that's just the number we've got to meet. If it goes above a certain level, it can be an exclusion in the tax cap. We are not anywhere near that number this year. We have increased costs of BOCES instructional technology support. That goes along with the software that we mentioned before. Also, some of it happens to be, we do try to use BOCES more with many items, with technology, with EdLaw TD, 2D, to maintain student privacy. It helps with our purchasing. And also, we do receive some expense-based aid back based on the state formula, so it can be a strategic way of some purchasing. And then we have included some anticipated rent for the administrative offices that we're going to be vacating here, and we're going to have to rent outside spaces. So what happens with a public vote on the school budget for the tax cap? If the budget is within the tax cap, we need a simple majority, which is 50% plus one vote to pass the budget. If the budget is not tax cap compliant, you need 60%, but that's not what this budget is before the community. This is a tax cap compliant budget. If the budget is not approved, the Board of Ed must adopt a contingency budget or a 0% tax levy increase, which could have a financial impact of $1.6 million, which will be met through any combination of expense reductions or revenue enhancements or fund balance, greater usage of fund balance. So this chart tries to give your resident homeowner an idea of what your average tax increase could look like year to year based on this budget. And it talks about, the top example talks about a home assessed at $510,000. And if, again, everybody's home assessment value changes every year, so the three columns you see is if your home assessment changes 2%, 4%, or 6%. And as you look at the bottom example 3 shows you what the impact would be to your school taxes if your home were assessed at $1.375 million. So it's kind of difficult to get everybody's exact number, but what this is doing here is just trying to give everybody an understanding generally of what that tax increase could mean to them. I really like this screen because this slide, because really what it does is it kind of shows you on the left-hand side what the changes are in our revenue from year to year. And as you can see, our property taxes in this budget would be going up $1.6 million. Our state and federal aid, again, we had a great increase in state aid this year, is going up $1.5 million. And then you see the use of our appropriation from fund balance is up $1.3 million with reductions in miscellaneous receipts, some of our prior year surpluses, and appropriation from ERS reserve. But that shows you a total increase in our revenues of $3.58 million. And on the right-hand side, this gives you an idea to see where the changes are in our expenditure budget. Right at the top there, you see just short of $2.5 million on interfund transfers for debt service. And that's the debt related to the $57 million capital plan. So all the borrowing is done. What we're doing now is we're getting everybody up onto that level for the debt service, so that you will again, that's not going to increase every year, which is nice. We've got some increases in our salaries with contractual step increases in any agreements. BOCES services, like we mentioned before, some of this can be related to increased services that we're putting into it to leverage better revenue in expense-based revenues, as well as software and instructional technology items, tuitions to meet student needs, and other contractual items as needed, textbooks and the like. Left-hand side, the revenue increase is $3.58 million. The right-hand side, our expense increase is an equal amount, $3.58 million. We have to have a balanced budget. Just another way to look at our expense budget, as you can see, it's three broad categories, but 74% of the budget is in support of instructional program. 17% of it supports the capital expenses, which is really the construction of the schools and the improvements of our schools and our facilities. And under 10%, just 9% of it is made up of our administrative expenses, and by state law, we need to be under 10% of our total administrative costs. I'll take you back to where we started. The proposed budget is $80,280,000, which is a budget-to-budget increase of 4.67%, projected allowable tax levy increase of 2.47%, and then we have a tax-compliant budget, and that's what the budget will be proposed before the voters on May 18th of 2.47%. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board before I open up for public comment on the adopted budget? Thank you again. Always feels like we get to this point, and we've seen this deck many times, so.
We definitely shrunk it, I think.
Yeah, you probably can say this in your sleep.
I did actually just want to thank Jim and all your people for being so available to help and explain the budget to anybody who needed it, which I did. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We like explaining it, so it's always good when people ask questions. This is what we like to do.
It's almost your Super Bowl. Okay, so 5.2 is a call for public comment on the adopted budget for the 2021-2022 school year. Is anybody here to comment on the budget? Okay, then I'd like to take a motion to adjourn the budget hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, John. Do I have a second? Thanks, Jess. I'm reading hands now. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 6 is financial reports and motions. I'd like to take consent of 6.1 through 6.4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Vinny. A second? Thanks, Sue. Any questions or comments? Or I know we've spoken about each of these items quite a bit. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'd like to take a consent of 6.5 through 6.11. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Leah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Eileen. Any questions or comments? These are all the contracts that Julia mentioned. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'd like to take a consent of 6.12 through 6.15. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, John. A second? Thanks, Jess. Any questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7 is policy monitoring and governance. We have 7.1 is policy 7330, searches and questioning of students. It's third reading. Eileen.
So nothing has changed again. This is the third reading of this policy, and just to remind everybody, this was a policy that we wanted to update for language purposes, that we really wanted, we just wanted the language to be a little bit more representative of a school and not necessarily a police department, or, take out any legal language where we could. And also to make it reflect a little bit more clearly what the actual practices are in the district. For instance, the previous policy talked about strip searches. We made it extremely clear in this one that we never do strip searches. So that was an improvement there. But it hasn't changed since the last two readings. So I would recommend we move to a vote.
Okay. Any questions or comments before I make a motion?
Eileen, have we received any public comment in the,
Not that I'm
during the
aware
time
of.
that it's been open? Okay.
These are posted online, right? So people have a chance to look at them.
In here, in the agenda.
And they're always listed in the meeting notices as well.
Right.
To draw attention to.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve policy 7330, searches and questioning of students?
So moved.
Thanks, Eileen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 8 is superintendent's personnel recommendations. I'd like to take a consent of 8.1 through 8.4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, John. I saw Jess's hand go up for a second. Any questions, comments, or additions? Jim, anything to add?
I
You
think I
touched
said
on
it
the
before.
retirement.
Thank you to our folks retiring, over 50 years of service to the district and the students of our schools, so that's really terrific.
And I just want to again highlight Margaret Ellis is being appointed tonight as the new guidance counselor at the high school, school counselor.
Thank
at
you.
the high school. I'm sorry.
I didn't want to correct you, but the school
Thank you.
counselor me like.
My mistake. Yes, school counselor, so we'll be excited to be welcoming her. The other item I wanted to highlight as well, we're also appointing tonight Maureen Gallagher to be an interim high school administrator, just to help out with some additional responsibilities at the high school as we wrap up the school year. So Maureen comes to us from a couple different BOCES placements, as well as through the Rye School District. So we're pleased to be welcoming her to help us through the end of the year.
I'm sorry. Under Margaret Ellis, it says the reason for the vacancy is the retirement of Maria Sutherland, but is that the domino?
That's the
of-
domino,
okay.
yeah.
That's
Maria,
technically the
yeah,
replacement,
Maria's
right?
retirement, Gina Archer
Okay.
is transferring into her position. And then Margaret is being hired to
Okay.
replace Gina at the high school. Yep.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 9 is People Personnel Services. We have a Schedule D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Vinnie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sue. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 10 is New Business. Do we have any new business?
I actually did have one item I wanted to bring up tonight. If you can remember, back before COVID, this is a calendar issue. We had, for a number of years as a district, done 2-hour delay starts for the purpose of professional learning community, professional time for teachers. So as we're contemplating the calendar for next year, we are looking to go back to normal, 5 days a week, full school days, et cetera. And we were wanting to bring back that practice of those PLC times to continue to provide teachers that professional learning time. Given that we have become somewhat accustomed to the early release Wednesdays, I was going to propose the idea of, instead of late start days, to actually shift those to Wednesday afternoons. We're only proposing 6 throughout the year. So not even one per month, but about 6 over the course of the year. If we move them onto Wednesday afternoons, we're able to tie those into department meetings, faculty meetings, days that we're already having teachers here for an extended period of time. So it would actually give us a really solid chunk of professional development time. And now the rec department we actually spoke with them the other day. They've got an extensive recreation program in place this year on Wednesday afternoons, thanks to the efforts and collaboration with the district and the PTAs. They said they would definitely be interested in planning similar programming next year on these days if possible. So I just wanted to put that idea out there to see if the board would be amenable to us continuing that conversation. If so, we could talk to the PTA Council tomorrow, who've, of course, been a great partner over the years. I know it would be a shift, and any change like that certainly is an imposition on our families, but we're hoping that folks have gotten somewhat more used to that, and it might be just a nice improvement on that model for us from the professional development side.
So would the release be at noon or 1?
It's a 2-hour.
If 2 hour, it actually would probably be more like a 1 o'clock.
More like 1?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be at 1, and then there could be rec programming almost immediately afterward. That would be an option for families that are relying on their kids being in
Yeah,
school.
and we haven't worked out any
until-
details,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think
Okay.
that would make sense.
Mhm.
Yes.
And how does that, sorry, I just have
Go
one follow-up. So if it were 6 Wednesdays, how does that compare to the number of delayed starts we had?
That was the question I was
Okay.
going to ask.
It is comparable. In any given year, at least in the years I was here, and certainly the couple of years prior, it looked like we had about 6 to 8 in any given year. Some of it depends on the calendar. If a month is too choppy, we really don't want to add yet another shortened period to it. So that's what my recollection in looking back over the years is anywhere from 6 to 8.
Thank you.
So I would just, which I'm sure we would do, just ensure that there's ample time to let the parent body know, because setting people's family calendars is always important, and to have to juggle, particularly after this year, causes frustration. So I think if people know in advance what the dates are and they can plan their childcare, and also having that option, if we do know ahead of time, having the option of the rec afternoons would be fantastic, particularly for the elementary school parents.
Yeah, and my hope would be actually to move ahead with these edits very soon so that we could reapprove the calendar for next year, to your
Yeah.
point, so that people have plenty of advance notice on that.
Right.
It seems like it probably will inconvenience as many people as it is more convenient for other people, but it seems like the synergies you can create with rec department and with the other teaching professional development opportunities, it seems like we should have thought of this a long time ago.
I
It took-
remember
It
you
took
actually,
COVID to make us go this way. right?
I actually remember you bringing it up before the pandemic, this idea that it might work out more
Potentially
efficiently
shift,
to
yeah.
shift to the afternoons. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, personally speaking, I love those like delayed starts after Super Bowl or like
know,
Halloween,
we will
like
lose those
key
two
moments where Dr.
opportunities.
Champ won some real points. But I think now that we've already, started every day at 8 something or other, shifted here and there, and the fact that Wednesdays have been these half days, the theme of kind of a Wednesday afternoon instead versus a late start might feel like more contiguous to the experience that we've had at this moment in time. Feels like a better fit for where we are now.
Isn't the day after Super Bowl already a holiday?
I think
It's
that
not?
teachers really appreciated that 2-hour day after Halloween as an example.
A lot of parents told me they appreciated it too. The Halloween is on the weekend this year, so we luck out on that one.
I mean, I understand what John's saying, like it'll inconvenience half as many people as it makes half as many people happy, but I think getting the information out there in the calendar before, like you said before the end of this school year, we're gonna have that calendar.
Yeah, if the board is
I think
is
that's
in
great
agreement, I
because
can move ahead now with it.
I mean, I always had to plan for those delayed starts, which I felt personally were more awkward than a shortened half day. So I'd be in the half that are happy about this decision, I guess. But, I think just having that calendar in advance is really what matters because I think it's really important for working families to be able to plan for those days because that was always what needs to happen. And so the sooner we get that information, that'll be great. But I think that's great if it ties in with staffing and makes sense that way too.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you. The other adjustment I'm going to be proposing, I don't want to make the same mistake 2 years in a row. We plan parent conferences again on St. Patrick's Day, so I will be making that adjustment as well, moving it back to Wednesday the 16th. So, lesson learned. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback on that.
Okay, so section 11 is communications and comments from the public. Before we begin, I just want to say a few reminders. Speakers may only comment once during the session and must state their full name and address for the record before speaking. We ask that you keep your comment brief to allow time for others to speak. Vulgar, threatening, and/or uncivil language will not be tolerated. Neither the Board of Education nor district administrators will be responding to comments or questions during the public comment. And that's it. So.
I'm going to try to control myself. My name is Maura Curtin. I live at 29 Chestnut. It's good to be with you all. I feel a little nostalgic tonight. I'm here on behalf of a few parents who I'll tell you at the end about trees. So Dr. Champ, members of Pelham Board of Education, I'm here tonight to formally request a plan for preserving the remaining trees on the Hutchinson School property and a plan for replacing the trees that were removed during construction. As you all know, the community came together in 2018 to support the school bond proposal, and we did so by encouraging surrounding neighbors and the Hutchinson community to support the plan and by highlighting the benefits of a new neighborhood school, which by all accounts is a dream come true, so we want to thank you all for that. Many neighbors and residents of the area won't use the school, but they did benefit from the mature trees that surrounded the property. More and more communities are beginning to recognize the tangible benefits that trees provide to the environment. Healthy trees reduce air and noise pollution, provide energy-saving shade and cooling, furnish habitats for wildlife, which we all appreciate, enhance aesthetics and property values, and are an important contributor to community image, pride, and quality of life. A dense tree canopy also protects the ground from the force of rainfall and makes wind force more moderate, which will help protect the new school and its grounds to add to its longevity. We are respectfully requesting that the plan to replace the trees be shared with the community as the plan for the new school was shared. We've heard some of our Board of Education members say during re-election presentations that the Hutchinson School is coming in on time and under budget. Early in the project, Dr. Champ stated in BOE meetings and in direct correspondence that there has always been an intention of tree restoration. In addition, the board made a clear point during the design and planning process to discuss maintaining as many trees as possible, acknowledging their importance. So we're so grateful for all of your hard work, planning, and thoughtfulness that has gone into this project, and there's no question that the board and our administration have truly delivered on their responsibility to build a school that will enrich our whole community for generations to come. With the finish line in sight, please be sure to also deliver on your responsibility to replenish and rebuild Pelham's tree canopy for the surrounding neighborhood and the Pelham community. So signed, Kate Carpenter, 50 Central Avenue, myself, Stacy Kaplan, 34 5th Street, and Cece Morrell, 419 3rd Avenue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, board. Thank you for all your hard work. My name is Christoph Schuler. I've been living in Pelham for 21 years. I know with my accent it doesn't look like it. And I currently reside at 1364 Manor Circle. I would like to voice a concern about critical race theory and its possible introduction in the school district. I've been talking with the board and through the voice of Jessica. She assures me that the equity audit should not be seen through the lens of critical theory. Unfortunately, around the country, it looks like these audits look like Trojan horses for critical race theory. I'm going to quote an article from yesterday's Epoch Time where 2 board members who were against critical race theory got elected. And in the article it states, it all started in 2018 after a video surfaced showing 2 students shouting the N-word. The district, in response, proposed a cultural competency action plan which would require diversity, inclusion training, etc., etc. So I'm sure we're different, but it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck. This concern is shared. If we were to introduce critical race theory in the school, it would be damaging to the town, the school, and the students. Briefly, critical race theory disguises itself as the gold standard of fairness and justice. But, in fact, it relies on vilification and the idea of permanent oppressor and oppressed races. Its goal is not to ensure that all people play by the same rule, regardless of race, but equity, which is an euphemism for race-based outcomes. It is divisive and, again, would hurt us all. To clarify, because many parents are conversing online, offline, I think it would be great if every current BOE member and maybe all the candidates before May 18 would clarify their position on critical race theory. Thank you.
Okay, so this brings us to section 12.
Madam President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, John. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Have a good night.